Whereas many of the scores in the system are based on the individual items over on the right-hand pane when creating scores, there are a few scores that are based on foundational subscores. One of those is the band score. So imagine that you're creating a lookup percentile, or you're making a lookup qualitative score. I'm going to call this percentile lookup. You can create scores that are based essentially on other scores. So I'm going to make the variable name the same, the description the name. You can be as descriptive as you want. The difference with this score is instead of clicking an actual item over to the right, I base it on a subscale score. In this case, I'm going to base it on my raw score, but it's going to bring up any available scores that I have. So I'm going to say, based on this raw score, I want to create a percentile lookup. And below, I click on this to add those ranges. Everything is evaluated top down. So the first time it actually hits a score value that matches the criteria, it's going to evaluate that result. So let me just show one example. If I have 1 to 20 here, and I add a range here that's 3 to 18, both of those conditions would be hit if I got the number 5. It's between 1 and 20, and it's between 3 and 18. But as I said, it evaluates top down, so it would hit the first one that comes about. So let's say this is pass. It would evaluate that. A more practical example might be from 0 to 8 gives me a percentile of 18 or something like that. And then I can go from 9 to 25, and that gives me something else. And I continue to add ranges, and I'll make these a little more broad, from 26 to 72, and from 73 to 100. So let's say my percentile here is 42, 76, and 98. What it would do is if my raw score is 7, you would get a percentile of 18. If my raw score is 24, I would get 42. So you would have a lot more descriptive bands in an actual real example. One thing to pay attention to, if your raw score could be 8.5, there is nothing here to evaluate. So a lot of times we do overlaps. So I would have 8 in both ranges, and as I said, it would evaluate the top one first. So this essentially becomes a greater than or equal to, and this becomes a less than, or you get the idea. This is the equal to, this is not the equal to. You can also set your rounding on your raw score, so you could never get an 8.5, and the 9 is just fine right here. You would always round to the nearest number, or you could set decimal values here to whatever you needed to do. So once again, top down, make sure there are no gaps in your ranges, and if there are, that the rounding takes care of it. And I can always set these values to overlap because the top one is going to get evaluated first. You can set these values, as we showed just briefly before, to numerics or alphas. So this could be great, pass, recommend with caution, or something like that. So you could set qualitative or text values as well. So this band score has a lot of power. It's based on a sub-score, and you need to be careful with your ranges. They're evaluated top-down, and not establish any gaps in those ranges or take care of that through subscale score rounding.